And Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Elyria City Council meeting for Tuesday, February 21st, 2023. I would ask that you please silence your phones or turn them off. Please join us in a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Mr. Snyder, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, may we have roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Callahan.
Here.
Mr. Sira.
Here.
Mr. Oswald.
Here.
Mr. Corbin.
Here.
Mrs. Mitchell.
Here.
Mr. Tollett.
Here.
Mr. Lippian.
Here.
Mrs. Davis.
Here.
Mrs. Simmons.
Here.
Mr. Schneider.
Here.
Mr. Stewart. We have one absent. Mr. Stewart called in today. He's not feeling well.
Can I get a motion to excuse Mr. Stewart, please?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Are there any questions?
Question.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Mr. Clerk, are there any public hearings?
There are none.
Can I get a motion for approval of the minutes, please?
So moved.
It's been moved and properly second. Are there any questions?
Question.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Remarks and reports from city officials. Mayor Whitfield's not here this evening. Finance Director Pileski, please.
No report at this time, Madam President.
Thank you. Law Director Deary.
Thank you, Madam President. I have no report this evening.
Thank you. Safety Service Director, Mr. Lundy.
Thank you very much. Just a quick update. Just wanted to compliment the quick response by our first responders. You know, we had the incident at Susan L's where a portion of that facade came down, and when I arrived on the scene, it was like a well-tuned orchestra, the way that everything was orchestrated there. Chief Pernesti immediately took control of the scene and started orchestrating everything, and our police department did an excellent job shutting things down right away. Thank goodness no one was hit. But engineering came out, quickly got the fences up, roped off the area, had a structural engineer come out within a short amount of time, take a look at the property, and thank goodness they were able to open back up for the important, busy weekend for that business. But can't thank our crews enough for that. And once again, got a lot of compliments in the community as well with the, sadly, the Espresso Donuts incident that took place with the driver going through the building. Had some folks tell me that they were just amazed by how quickly everybody was on the scene, how they immediately took control of the situation, had things under control. And so we just can't thank them enough. I guess I understand the driver that went through the Espresso Donuts was an individual from Parma, 39 years of age. So if residents are wondering if it was one of our local residents speeding through the neighborhood, that's not the case. But nonetheless, thank goodness, quite frankly, nobody was working in the kitchen when that happened. Could have been a very serious situation. But once again, just very proud of the response of our first responders.
Thank you, Mr. Lundy. Mr. Tollett.
Through you, Madam Chair. In regards to the response at Susan L's, hats off to our fire department. But for the record, I want everyone to be aware, fire department had to get on the roof for that call. And we had to call in mutual aid because our ladder truck was out of commission that day. So that will be something that I will bring to Finance Committee this coming Monday for an expenditure, because ours is 15 years, approaching 15 years old, and by the time we could receive a new one, it'll be close to 19 years old. So I want everyone to keep that in mind, that we had to count on, I believe if it was Sheffield Township. Is that correct, Chief? Village. Sheffield Village, excuse me. That we had to call in mutual aid to get on top of the building. So I just wanted everyone to be aware of that. Thank you.
Mr. Lippian.
Through you, Madam President. Safety Service Director Lundy, are you aware at all of the condition of the driver in regards to the Espresso Bakery incident?
Yeah, no, I don't have any of that information.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Lundy? Mr. Oswald?
Through you, Madam Chair, Madam President. There was another call that I made on the corner. It's a medical building. It wasn't anybody in it, but the facade come off. It was a stucco type product, okay? Now, I know you take an engineer and a structural engineer and go into Susan L's, but the product that was put on, we've had a 25 years ago, they had a class action suit against the company that was putting that type of product on, because that exact scenario happened where that product soaks up water, rots studs. So there's a possibility there could be structural problems there. Will anybody, because now the building department, somebody, I don't know who checks those things out, but I think that building needs to be checked also, because it can be just as damaging as that problem that they had at Susan L's. This could be worse because you don't see the problem until you have a collapse. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Yeah, we can certainly follow up on that, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Lundy? Thank you. Police Chief Pelko. Mr. Lippian.
Through you, Madam President. Chief, are you able to give us an update at all on the incident at Harvard?
Are you referring to the most recent drive-by shooting? We're still investigating it. I think I talked with you before. It is related, that house was shot up once before, and we did arrest a juvenile out of there for a couple robberies and a couple of gun-related incidents. So we're still investigating it, though.
Mr. Lippian.
Through you, Madam President. And you still welcome an outreach to any residents that might have any video, camera footage, or information that can assist in the investigation?
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief Pelko. Any other questions? Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Fire Chief, Chief Bernesky. No report. But Mr. Callahan has a question for you, sir.
Through you, Madam President, to Fire Chief Pernesti. I've received a few inquiries over the last couple of weeks in regards to the train derailment in Ohio with the chemical spill, and we all know the issues that are going on there, the safety issues. Could you just kind of update council and the citizens of where the Elyria Fire Department is on that type of response, if indeed an accident like that would occur in Elyria?
Well, I will tell you that we're no stranger to chemical problems. I was around when Aztec blew up 30 years ago. So we protect a lot of infrastructure, and that train actually went through Elyria, I was told, an hour or two before. But, you know, I think everybody first off has to understand that with the Norfolk Southern Railroad in our downtown, you know, hazardous materials are rolling by all the time. So that's nothing that should be a surprise to anybody. So we do train on it, but, you know, I would say that we would handle it the best we could. I think the citizens have to have trust in myself and Chief Pelko will do what we feel is best for the safety of the citizens. But what they experience in East Palestine, to me, is a once-in-a-generation hazardous materials incident That truly is. I hope it doesn't happen here, but I will tell you that, there's always going to be things that you can say you do better or what if. I will tell you that I'm as prepared as can be, but you just don't know. We can't prepare for everything. I would say that we probably have to look at our emergency operation plan for the city and tweak those things, because there's so many, since it's been the last time it was updated, there's so many things that have come up in the world since then. You think of active shooter events or, these type of things. So we do need to probably work on that, and we will, but you got to trust me and that guy right there to do our best, and we'll do everything we can to protect the citizens.
Thank you, Chief. Are there, Mr. Oswald?
Through you, Madam President. There was a guy, Tom Kelly, that ran emergency management, I guess, and he's since retired. And from what I understand, that's when we have like something like that, he would be called out, and then they have a game plan. Do they have that anymore, or is that?
Well, I'm the one who'd have the
wayside?
game in the city. The fire chief is ultimately responsible. So yes, there's still county emergency management. We work with them, but the overall responsibility for an emergency is with the fire chief. Even in East Palestine, I feel tough for that chief. But yeah, it's ultimately with the fire chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Berneski. Chief City Engineer, Mrs. McKillop.
No.
Are there any questions for Mrs. McKillop? You couldn't get away that easy. Mr. Lothian.
Through you, Madam President. Thank you. Engineer McKillops, given what happened at Espresso Bakery over the weekend and what happened at Nikki's Good to Go a few years back, please opine, if you could, on your opinion on creating some kind of barrier structure to protect those businesses from a ballistic crash like what happened to them. Loss of life, injury, loss of property, business, all of these can be ramifications that can negatively impact and also the lives of the drivers themselves. So do you have any thoughts on how we can help buttress and support the areas around places like that so that they can be protected?
That's something that we would have to think about, but I do want to say that when it comes to buildings that are very close or right on the right-of-way or property line, right up against, sidewalks or streets, we have a duty to make sure that we do not actually prohibit vehicles, I should say, from not only causing damage to buildings, but preventing injury. So what I'm trying to say is, we have this area in the right-of-way. In some cases, we call it a clear zone, where we don't want any obstructions, whether it's a boulder, a concrete light post, or something that's not breakaway. Because if someone does hit that, then that in itself could cause damage and injury. So our goal is to make sure that objects, items are not put in a situation that could potentially cause more damage than it could be helping, or what we would perceive as helping a situation. With that said, property owners, of course, can take it upon themselves to look at things that can be done along their properties that may help protect their building, their property, their investment. We get into a tough situation when the buildings are right on the property line or right on the right-of-way line, because there may not be any room to provide that structure or that bollard or wherever the case may be that we think may be protecting a building. But one thing we don't want to do is put something in a situation or in a position that could potentially cause more harm than good.
Mr. Lippian?
Through you, Madam President. Yeah, absolutely, we'd want to do a cost-benefit analysis. Just some things I've heard from residents in the ward so far, maybe like rumble bumps. I've heard safer barriers, speed humps. Someone mentioned pylons, and I don't know what the answer is, but I guess I'm just trying to advance the thoughts that I've gotten from a lot of residents, because I know that before it was Espresso Bakery, I understand it was the Hive, it's like a yoga place, and I think a car also crashed into the back of the building then. So I'm just thinking in terms of mitigating risk, and like you, I would not want that to increase risk in other categories. So maybe that's something we can analyze together and find a solution for. Chief, I see you have.
Yeah, I just want to say, I'm probably more time than anybody else in the city. You are not going to totally prevent every type of emergency. You can't wrap everything in bubble wrap. I wish we could. We wouldn't have jobs. But accidents are going to happen. And as long as you have that, I don't see, this has been brought up before. That's why I came up here for cars versus buildings. There's only so much that I feel personally that the city could really do. You are going to have accidents. That's why you have emergency services. Unfortunately, you're going to have car versus buildings. And as long as people are not paying attention on their phones or drinking, you're going to need emergency services, because we just can't do that. So I just wanted to weigh in that that's not the first time I've heard that. So I've heard that a lot. And it's an unfortunate circumstance, but I just don't know how we can protect every single residence. We've probably responded, and I'll go back now, but we've probably responded 3 or 4 times to car versus that poor gentleman at Chestnut and Abbey.
Yes.
And I responded on we've had a fatal accident where that poor person hit that house and we had to cut him out. I don't know what the answer is, but I will say that you're just not going to make everything safe, unfortunately. Elyria is just that kind of town where these things, the accidents, just with the travel and the highways, that these things unfortunately happen.
Mr. Lippian? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Yeah, through you, Madam President. Chief, absolutely. I mean, we acknowledge even the Garden of Eden had a snake. You know, there is no perfect walled-off, protected place, but whatever actions we can take to mitigate risk in one category that are reasonable, I'm just interested in analyzing solutions. I just would hate for that business owner, any business owner, to be conscious of multiple accidents in a building and wonder if their number is going to get picked at any time. So anything we can do reasonably to mitigate risk, I'd love to explore those with you and the engineers. So thank you for weighing in on that.
Thank you, Mr. Lippian. Superintendent of Wastewater, Mr. Corzan. Thank you, Mr. Corzan. President's referrals and remittances. Number 1, to Community Development Finance. Number 2, Community Development Finance. Number 3, Planning Commission, Community Development. Number 4, Finance. Number 5, Finance. Number 6, Finance. Number 7, Utilities. Number 8, Utilities. Number 9, Utilities. Number 10 through 12, receive and place on file in the clerk's office. Mr. Clerk, petitions and remittances from the lobby?
We have several, so I'm going to ask the audience to keep their remarks to 3 minutes, because we have quite a few tonight, so, okay.
Thank you, sir.
The first one is Lisa Wright, 258 Brunswick Drive, Apartment B, ARPA funds.
Hello, Council.
Ms. Wright, please give your name and address for the record. But let me just state, regarding ARPA funds, that will be discussed either in the next finance meeting or the finance meeting after that. So you might want to come back for one of those meetings, but please go ahead.
Okay. My name is Lisa Wright. My address is 258 Brunswick Drive, Suite B, Elyria, Ohio 44035. It was concerning the ARPA funds. I want to put a proposal in to build a brand-new childcare preschool, and I want to know if I should put the proposal in before you guys do the budget or after you do the budget.
I would assume it before we do the budget. Mr. Pileski?
Yes, of course, you know, by law, the budget has to be passed by the end of March, so we'll be having a finance meeting on the 27th of this month, and depending on what happens at that meeting, possibly going to council on the 6th, but more than likely, it'll be at the council meeting of the 20th.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
So,
Thank you,
Ms. Wright, you want to put it in before the budget, the finance meeting?
Before the 20th or the 6th, or the 27th?
Yes, ma'am.
Which one?
Before the 27th, Mr. Pileski?
So March 20th will be the last meeting that we can pass the budget before the March 31st deadline unless a special council meeting is called. So there'll be 2 finance committee meetings before that March 20th deadline. So we'll have a finance committee meeting next Monday, the 27th,
Okay.
and then there will be a finance meeting on the 13th.
Okay.
So, Ms. Wright, you want to get that in as soon as you can?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Council.
We have Nick Casaros, 6326 Lake Avenue, Ohio Edison.
Good evening. Would you give your name and address for the record, please?
Sure, Nick Katsaris, 6326 Lake Ave. I'm all of your contact at First Energy Ohio Edison. More than anything, just wanted to check in with all of you. I know vast majority of you, but there's a few of you that I don't know, so I wanted to leave behind a few of my cards. You know, I'm your contact for Ohio Edison, so please feel free to contact me at any time if you need anything regarding any of the Ohio Edison customers, you know, within your wards. I'm happy to help any which way that I can. So I wanted to make sure that you all have my contact information and, you know, to reach out to me, you know, at any time that you need me. So while I'm here, is there anything that I could, you know, be made aware of that I could address?
Mrs. Davis, you had a question?
Oh, through you, Madam Chair. Thank you so much. First off, thank you for coming, and I would love to have your business card.
Of course. Yep.
To me, is so disgraceful how cable is connecting to our poles, and the wires is all hanging all kind of ways like nobody care. So I'm so glad to see you tonight so I can have this conversation with you privately. And then also, I had lights out on West River. When I called to talk about them, they told me to go out there on West River, get those numbers. We need to just talk.
Yep, just give me a call.
We need to talk. Thank you.
Of course.
Mr. Oswald?
Through you, Madam President, if you want to write this address down.
Sure.
237 Pepperdine Drive, lamp post across the street. You guys have been out a couple different times, changed out the head. Supposedly there may be a disconnection. I went up and bumped it a couple times and it flashes. So there's an issue there. Thank you.
237 Pepperdine?
237 Pepperdine.
Okay, perfect. Yep, I'll look into it.
Mr. Tolet?
Through you, Madam Chair. For the audience, of any of the utilities that we deal with, Mr. Katsaros has been awesome. I can't, and if you have an electrical issue, please reach out to your council person because he answers his phone and he responds. I can't say enough good things.
Thank you, and I will second that. I've worked with Nick many times, and I bug his eyeballs out too, so.
No, yeah, that's
he's
my job.
very responsive.
Yeah, please
Very
keep
responsive.
bugging me, so.
Thank you so much.
Awesome, great. Well, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Have a nice night.
Thank you, you as well.
We have Jason Pilardi, 312 Harvard Avenue. Subject, recent drive-bys on Harvard Avenue and speeding disregard for stop signs.
Good evening, sir. Would you please state your name and address for the record?
Sure. Jason Pallardy, 312 Harvard Avenue. I've lived on Harvard Avenue for almost 20 years now. Many of my neighbors have lived there for 20 years, if not longer. And for so long, it was a nice, quiet neighborhood, what we all expect out of your typical Eastern Heights neighborhood. Over the last 3 years or so, we've started, as a collective, have noticed a downward trend in the overall quality of life that we have in the neighborhood. A lot of that comes from homes that weren't being sold that were turned into rentals. So you have folks moving in who don't care as much for the homes as what a homeowner-occupied home would. And we also have some homeowner-occupied homes where the same thing, there's no pride in the home. There's no pride in the neighborhood. Recently, I've been woken twice at 1 o'clock in the morning by gunshots directly across the street from my house. That's concerning. It was 14 or 15 shots the one night and 21 shots the other night. I helped count the casings that were littered in the streets in front of my house. Nobody wants to talk about the solutions to those problems. And I think the solution to those problems is us residents taking a proactive approach in how we deal with these issues. I want to extend a fig leaf to the police department that, and I'll speak for myself personally, I am willing to do whatever it takes to end this in the neighborhood. If you need to use my house, you need to use my driveway, you need to set up a temporary tactical operations center, you call me. I've got you. Your guys, if they need to patrol the streets more in our neighborhood. And I'm not afraid to go out and talk to the police officers when they respond. And I am always told every single time that that side of town is not a priority. It's about time we make it a priority. We really do. If you want to take several of us who live on the street, I know you can't deputize us, but use us to whatever it needs. If you need to say, hey, Mr. Pallardy, can we use your driveway tonight? Absolutely. If you know you're responding to something on the street and you want to call me as you're driving in and say, hey, what's the scene look like? Would you and Mr. So-and-so be willing to post up at set up a perimeter? I got you. Whatever you need, we're willing to do that for you. Because at the end of the day, it's going to help us as a neighborhood build back up to where it's supposed to be, where we're proud to live there. My wife has been on me for a couple of years now to move outside of the city. I'm about ready too, but I'm willing to give it another fight. So I think that the longer this continues on, the more residents you're going to have like us who are going to pick up and leave. But most of us care too much to do it without giving it our all. So that's really all I have. Mr. Lippian, I know he has my information. If you want my information, I know I've given it to several of your officers. Please reach out. We've got your back, and we want to be part of the solution and proactive about it. I know we can't take everything into our own hands, but, as a collective force, we'll do it. So that's all I have. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Lippian?
Robert Martin.
Thank you,
Just a moment. Mr. Lippian?
Thank you, Mr. Pallardy, for speaking. I really appreciate your words. I think you've got a lot of sapience in what you're saying. There's a lot of wisdom there, and I want you to know I had the great opportunity to shadow the police department last night as they policed the first ward, and they caught about 5 people busting stop signs, 3 at the corner of Fairlawn and Stanford, 1 at the corner of Eastern Heights and Garford, and 1 at the corner of Eastern Heights and Park. And I was there for every one of them, and we talked about a lot of different solutions and a lot of different things that we could do. And then I'm sitting at home writing down, my memo for the day, and then I hear a car zoom right down Garford, and I thought, darn it, I wish I was back in that police car. And then it occurred to me, I hear this just about every night or so at 10:30 p.m. So you know what I've started doing? I've started keeping a speeding journal. And I'm going to take note when I hear that, and if I start catching a pattern, I'm going to let the police department know, hey, about 10:15 on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I hear the same truck go down, and see if they can catch him, because the only way we're going to stop it is if we send a clear and strong message, not in our city, not in our ward. We refuse to leave because we care too much about the city. So thank you for your passion and your moxie. Thank you.
Mr. Clerk?
Robert Martin, 860 Oak Street, damages.
Mr. Martin, would you give your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, it's Robert Martin, 860 Oak Street, Elyria, Ohio.
Go ahead.
I was just inquiring about the property damage, where we stood.
Mrs. Deary, could you respond to that?
Through you, Madam President, yes. This matter will come before this council. It's actually number 11 on the agenda this evening. So, sir, this matter is a proposed ordinance that will be addressed by council this evening.
I just want to say one thing to a lot of you. I took it upon myself to put up cameras. Those cameras record. I could send those videos anywhere I want to. I can publish them anywhere I want to. That's probably your safest bet. I mean, the city of Elyria, the police department, they have a website. You can get a contact, but that's what I'm doing. I mean, enough is enough. Thank you guys so much for your time. God bless.
Thank you.
Matt Van Wormer, 235 Dennison Avenue, Espresso Bakery, response.
Mr. Van Wormer, your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. Matthew Van Wormer, 235 Dennison Avenue, Elyria, Ohio. At 9 a.m. on Sunday, a car ran into Espresso Bakery doing about 65 miles per hour. At 9:45, my family and I drove by on our way to church. The car was gone, and all that was left was the hole and damage. I want to commend the Elyria Fire Department, Chief Pernesti, and the EMTs that got things cleaned up and safe for residents and the bakery so quickly, along with a couple very good Samaritans. We continue to see these types of accidents, the result of people going too fast in residential areas. Unfortunately, our police force continues to be understaffed, not allowing them to patrol neighborhoods as they bounce from call to call. We have to find a way to get Chief Pelko the staffing levels he needs to allow his officers to do the patrolling necessary to deter people from speeding through our neighborhoods. The speed limit displaying signs are great, but they are no substitute for an EPD cruiser. Thank you, council. Thank you, chiefs, for all your hard work, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Van Wormer. Mr. Lithian.
Through you, Madam President, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Van Wormer. I actually had the opportunity to talk to the chief on the phone today about that very subject. As we were floating different ideas, he said, how can you get me more staff? And so we're beginning to research that now to find creative solutions to get the fire and the police the staff that they need to get the job done. Multi-pronged solution. We need creativity and innovation. And we need to keep talking about it. So thanks for coming up and speaking today.
Lori Warfield, 16565 Schneider Road, ARPA grant for Washington Avenue Christian Church.
Again, we're not making any decisions on any ARPA funds. You want to go before the finance or submit it so that it will be before finance. But you're welcome to speak on it if you like. Thank you. And if you give your name and address for the record, please.
Lori Warfield, 16565 Snyder Road. I encourage you to support our application for the ARPA funding recently submitted by my church, Washington Avenue Christian Church. I was born into the Washington Avenue Christian Church family in 1951. My mother and father were both born and raised in Elyria. You might be interested to know that we have been an example of stability throughout our history. The church was originally known as Elyria Disciples. The group incorporated in April of 1883, which is 140 years ago, and later purchased a former Methodist church on the corner of 2nd and Chapel Streets. In 1945, the congregation purchased the 3.5-acre Washington Avenue home, which was previously owned by United States Congressman and Ambassador to France, William Graves Sharp. We moved to the Washington Avenue property in 1953 after the mansion's facade was bricked over to match the newly constructed sanctuary. The property also included an interesting variety of historic trees, a spacious lawn that now houses individual community garden plots tended by our neighboring residents. In 2000, an education building was added, the mansion rooms were refurbished, and the sanctuary renovated. With these improvements, the congregation included $132,000 for various outreach projects. The church remains a beautiful monument to God and is a testament to planting seeds for the future, to a faithful congregation spanning many generations, and to Christian care of our neighbors near and far. The congregation itself has been recognized for its commitment to outreach, consistently being in the upper 5% of all Disciples churches. During COVID, we were committed to continuing serving our neighbors by purchasing equipment to offer worship and support online. We conducted committee and leadership meetings via Zoom. We offered devotional opportunities, social gatherings, and pastoral care through our website and social media. This transition was costly in terms of technology and those who sacrificed time to plan and execute various parts of serving our congregation and our neighbors near and far. When we did open our doors, we had extra cleaning expenses, masks, special communion cups, wipes, and hand sanitizer. We understand that other small businesses and churches in our area have received ARPA funding already. We ask you to please support our request. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mark Mathis, 1730 Gulf Road, ARPA grant request.
Good evening. Could you give your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Mark Mathis, 1730 Gulf Road in Elyria. I have lived in Elyria since 1979 and have been an active member of Washington Avenue Christian Church for 40 years. Though not a native, I have chosen to make this my home with my family. Thanks for this opportunity to speak. We as a church have submitted a grant request for ARPA funds, consistent with the purpose for which those funds are intended. I am not here to ask for our grant to be approved or disapproved. I'm only asking that the criteria used in evaluating and approving previously granted requests be equitably applied to our grant request. I am hopeful and confident that this will happen, as a fair and impartial process is good for all of Elyria, including its residents and the officials that are both elected and appointed to serve. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Ron Dolphin, 230 University Avenue, ARPA funding.
Good evening. Please give your name and address for the record.
Ron Dolphin, 230 University Avenue, Elyria. Good evening. I'm a member also of Washington Avenue Christian Church, and we're here to request your support of our grant request for ARPA funds. A church we know is space that is set aside for worship, but there's also church that's written with a capital C, which reminds us that we have a larger mission, one that extends beyond our walls. Washington Avenue Christian Church is a place of worship open to all, but who also understands the larger mission that we are called to serve. Be assured that our church, as a nonprofit organization, has impact in this city, and you know us. Maybe you've seen us with a table at Third Thursdays, or seen our pastor engaged in the community through Rotary Club or praying with someone in the hospital. Maybe you know someone who's been visited by our elders for home communion. You may know that our worship services are broadcast to the whole community on YouTube. You may have constituents who are helped by our food collections, by our support of Blessing House, by our gift boxes for seniors distributed through Neighborhood Alliance. What you probably don't know is that we are looking around and seeing needs in this community. and we see, as you do, where people are hurting. We want to help. We recently hired a youth and young adult minister to guide us in reaching out to at-risk youth in our city. And there are other needs too, some that we aren't even aware of yet. We want to serve our neighbors. We want to make a difference in Elyria. These ARPA funds can help, and you, the council, can help. We ask for your support so that we can continue and expand our work within this city that we love. Thank you.
Thank you.
Reverend Nathan Russell, 136 Barrington Court, ARPA funding, essential.
Good evening, Reverend. Would you please give your name and address for the record?
Nathan Russell, 136 Barrington Court, Elyria, Ohio.
Welcome. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Leaders of the city of Elyria, I bring greetings from Washington Avenue Christian Church, Disciples of Christ. I am the Reverend Nathan Russell, and as many of you know, I live in the house that Lynette and Vic Stewart built, whose mail still comes to my address on occasion. I note his absence tonight. When I moved here 4 years, 5 months, and 21 days ago, I had no imagination for what a mutual ministry with Washington Avenue Christian Church would entail. Like many of you who were serving this body in 2020, none of us were prepared for COVID-19. We had to get creative in how we conduct business. In fact, Governor DeWine had to initiate an emergency authorization measure so that this very body could conduct its business online via Zoom. Washington Avenue Christian Church, too, had to express its entrepreneurial spirit throughout 62 weeks of physical separation, and again when we regathered in person. We had to get creative and engage in creating meaning in ways that were true, beautiful, and meaning-making. These measures have come at a significant expense to our congregation. Thankfully, the federal government passed stimulus packages and ARPA funding. And like many congregations, social service, NGOs, Washington Avenue Christian Church has written a proposal that gives evidence to our creativity, imagination, and faith. Though you have not seen it yet, I wager that when you do, you will be inspired by this 141-year-old church that thrives in this city, whose name translates as the river of our God. While you won't be making any decisions tonight about ARPA funding, I hope you will remember this record-breaking crowd and the number of living saints present from Washington Avenue Christian Church when it does come time for you to pass your budget. Our request is that you fund essential services through ARPA dollars. But more than that, we make an invitation for you to become participants in bending the arc of the moral universe toward justice. And we, the people of Washington Avenue Christian Church, will give thanks for your leadership, stewardship, and partnership with this historic congregation. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for such a spirited presentation. Thank you.
Cheryl Wright, 110 William Street, Chestnut Ridge, 57 traffic.
While Mrs. Wright is coming, I just want to stress again that if you're interested in ARPA funds, please make sure that you attend the Finance Committee meeting either this coming Monday or the following Monday so you can get your proposals in. And thank you. Mr. Lithian.
Through you, Madam President. Thank you, Reverend, for that stirring oration. And I want to thank you also for the beautiful benediction you gave on the bicentennial of Elyria being the county seat, in which you did note that Elyria translates to Eli in Hebrew, which is river, God, which is God. Yep, and then Ria, which is river, so river of my God. And I really think that's a special thing that you pointed out, so thank you for bringing that back up and for your presentation on ARPA funds, and we will consider that.
Mrs. Wright, thank you for your patience. Please, your name and address for the record, please.
Cheryl Wright, 110 William Street, Elyria.
Go ahead.
Regarding Chestnut Commons traffic, my thought is only a small portion that may be helpful, especially for westbound Chestnut Ridge traffic, which, given the fact that there's a legal right-hand turn on red for traffic exiting the Commons, with that short distance to 57, that right on red traffic fills and refills that area, and it prevents anyone that's coming westbound on Chestnut Ridge when they have their green from advancing. Sat through multiple lights and have basically given up, and I go down to 57 and get off the turnpike there. So any impromptu stops for shopping, it's not going to happen for me, because I avoid that area, and as well as I know a lot of other of my friends do. But if we could make that a no turn on red, I've heard that you want to incentivize residents to use the Reeser Point crossing. That may help incentivize that if they see, hey, I'm not going to be able to go ahead and turn and right on red and beat these guys to 57, that they may want to take the other connector. But I do have an issue regarding safety on that road, Reeser Point crossing. There have been a number of times where I've gone just to pick up my Walmart order at night, and even going the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, given the fact that there's curves there, even with oncoming traffic, you can't use your high beams, okay? But there are pedestrians. I have called police non-emergency a number of times. And I'm like, somebody's going to get hit here. There is no breakdown lane. There is no sidewalk. There is no white line. The people are literally walking in the road. And if I hadn't been going the speed limit that first night, I mean, I kind of had a freak out moment. And I'm like, I would have totally hit that person. They were dressed all in dark clothes. And it's totally not safe the way it is right now. And if you're talking increased traffic, there's no lighting, there's no sidewalk for people, there's no signs up saying this is not for pedestrians. And I don't even think you've put signs up that people would pay attention to it anyway. Honestly, the people that are going to walk there are going to walk there. I've seen people using the center lane in athleisure wear like it's a Metro Parks. And I'm like, we have Metro Parks. Can we not use them? This is not safe, people. Don't walk in the road. I think they missed Safety Town. Somehow they didn't attend or something. And I grew up in Massachusetts, but we had a similar training in the schools that said, ride your bike with, walk against. No, they're walking with the traffic in dark clothes in the middle of the road. So those are my points of concern over diverting more traffic there, is that somehow be addressed. Because the road isn't wide enough for a breakdown lane. It wasn't made for that purpose. And it's, in my opinion, just not a good idea to put more traffic there until those safety concerns are addressed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark Crick, 105 Harvard, Chestnut Commons traffic.
Mr. Quick, if you'll give your name and address for the record, please.
Mark Crick, 105 Harvard Avenue, Elyria, Ohio. First time here. Thank you so much for hearing me. My concern is the Chestnut Commons as well, as far as the traffic goes. I mean, I live on Harvard, so I go down East River, And, when you get to that intersection, it's absolutely ridiculous. Depending on what time of the day you go in there, getting through is just, it's ridiculous. So I like to go the back way, go down Reserve Point, I think is what it's called. And now, with all the road construction, I don't even want to go that way. So I think kind of what my thought is, maybe a proposal, is like if you go down 57 South, traffic's crazy. They just blow through everything. Why not slow it down? So my proposal was, when you come out of Walmart at Reeser Point there, you go left or right. Why can we not put an exit and an entrance there on 57 with a light? That can direct a lot of traffic off of Chestnut Ridge there going in. Because I think, maybe 75% of the people that go in there are going to the Walmart anyways. Why not give them a better entrance and exit there? People will slow down coming down 57 because there's another light there. People coming north, I think that's maybe 1,000 feet off of Chestnut Ridge there. If you were to put an intersection right there, that's well enough time to slow everything down. This Michigan U-turn I heard about a while back, I think that is a total disaster waiting to happen. So I appreciate the time, but that's my biggest concern, is getting another exit there. I don't see why that would not be an issue, and I think that would solve a lot of that traffic in that intersection there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. But, just to note, Route 57 is a state route. The city of Elyria it's a state route. So, and I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
You guys have wasted them.
Thank you.
Jose Martinez, 620 Park Avenue, and no subject.
Mr. Martinez, please give your name and address for the record, please.
Jose Martinez, 620 Park Avenue, here in Elyria. Just to kind of reiterate what Mr. Velarde said a few minutes ago. Obviously, the drive-by shooting has sparked a lot of concern in our neighborhood. This is something, I've been there for 11 years, and I've seen some things go on, high-speed chases, crashes, whatever, down Park Avenue, but nothing to this extent. Sitting there in your home, you think it's a safe place, you think you're okay, you think you could just, watch TV at night, and then all of a sudden you're hearing 15 shots one night, 21 shots the next night. It's concerning. It's concerning, and what I'm concerned about is the fact that, and I know that you guys are working on trying to figure out who did this, but the next time it's going to be somebody who is in that house that's going to get shot, or it's going to be somebody who had nothing to do with what's going on, with the beef that this person has, that's going to be an innocent person minding their own business, going to get shot, injured, or even worse, killed, and then all of a sudden, it's going to be your priority. Okay? Until this happens, and again, I understand what you're going through. I spoke to a lieutenant the other morning after this happened, and he explained to me, we're looking. I'm sorry, that's not enough for me. Somebody needs to be held accountable. Either the parents of this child who they're after needs to be held accountable because she knows more than what she's saying, or somebody needs to turn the screws up on this kid. Because this is completely unacceptable. Okay? I'm tired of it. I'm with Jason. I'm getting my house done right now to sell it. My plan is to sell this house in the next 3 or 4 years because I don't know what the future's going to bring, and I don't want to find out. I don't want one of us as a citizen to have to step in to do something that we don't want to do. I don't want to do it. The fact that there's no police presence in our area, I get it. Eastern Heights is, for the most part, a pretty good neighborhood, so therefore there's not a whole lot of police presence. But when that happens, the bad guys don't care about where the police are. The bad guys know where to go. Because by the time we call, and credit to the Elyria PD, they show up. I mean, you guys are there. But by the time you get there, they're gone. And they know this. They know this, and this goes back to a lot of other issues too. I think Mr. Littman pointed out, the speeding, blowing stop signs. I mean, it's just a variety of different things. My proposal to this, you guys asked, what can we do? Here's my proposal. You have auxiliary officers. I understand a lot of them have full-time jobs. With that said, it's not going to hurt to put 1 or 2 or 3 auxiliary officers in a vehicle. All they're going to do is make a presence. That's it. They don't have arresting authority. They don't have any authority to do anything, but they do have a radio to call in for backup if they see something. They do have the ability to call a fellow officer who is a sworn officer to show up and figure out what's going on. Because whatever's going on right now in the Eastern Heights neighborhood is not working, and it's getting worse. Thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Through you, Madam President. Thank you, sir. This one hits home for me because I too was awoken by the gunshots in the middle of the night. My first thought is just like Councilman Oswald said, we could pass a fireworks ordinance and people are going to pop off fireworks anyway. That's the first thing that went through my mind, and then I later realized those aren't fireworks. And just last night, when I was out with the police, we answered the issue in Eastern Heights School, and my baby was woken up by the guy doing donuts in the Eastern Heights School and flipped his car on the side, and then of course the 3-year-old won't go back to sleep. I agree with you. Our neighborhood sometimes lately has just been unsettlingly unpredictable, and we have to do everything that we can to enforce some predictability on that. So again, just thank you for speaking. You know, we're not asking for bubble wrap. We're just asking for the best that we can do to minimize risk. So, and I love that you guys are all here. I wish we had all of you every council meeting. It's so great to have the citizens give our feedback. So thanks, everybody.
Mary Sawerka, 119 Fresno Court, Chestnut Commons Development.
Mrs. Zaworka, please give your name and address for the record.
Mary Sawerka, 119 Fresno Court. I will try for the 3 minutes. I don't promise. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight as I ask for this body to push the pause button on the matter before you to further the development on Chestnut Commons. I stress I am not against strategically planned and vetted development in this area or any other areas in Elyria. But this project is lacking a comprehensive traffic plan, which is dangerous to all of us. This phase 1 of this multi-phase project will add hundreds of vehicles to an already totally congested area, moving forward without an updated plan, traffic study plan that's stale. Part of the proposed traffic configuration includes the alignment of the in and out of the Sheetz gas station to the private roadway across the street in Chestnut Commons. Now, I'm very well aware of the history of that private roadway, and it was put in for fire and police access only because at the time, the dead-end street back to Walmart was longer than the fire department allowed for. And so therefore, that street was put, it's not even really a street, it's a private drive. But now the Sheetz is bumped up to that. I reviewed the Planning Commission minutes relative to this project over the last year, and I offer some significant insight into this project. At the March 22nd meeting, the first rezoning request came forward. I will let you know that the minutes of the meetings of Planning Commission are all paraphrased. They are not typed verbatim, so it's hard to know exactly what was said. I suppose you'd have to listen to the tapes. But Planning Commission member Barry Hubbard asked, how will this affect the traffic? John Schneider said he understands that with more businesses come more traffic, potential development to the east of 57 could alleviate, but for the time being, traffic potential will be there. I am reading the sentence exactly how it is typed in the minutes that were the official record of such a meeting. I don't understand what he said. A neighbor spoke in opposition, but Planning Commission approved the request. At the June meeting of 22, the street was renamed because the police and the fire department and the engineering department encouraged the developer to rename the street to avoid confusion. Barry Hubbard asked, has a traffic study been done in that area, or is it a concern? John, I assume John Schneider, but the official minutes don't say a last name, said that until a formal submittal is done, a traffic study can't be completed. An alternate drive for the Kentucky Fried Chicken and Panera was discussed, but the notes don't reflect any resolution of that. The July meeting brought a request from Sheetz on multiple variances. Then Aldi's asked for a variance on the parking spaces. They wanted 35 less than the code allows. The chief building official said he didn't support that, and Planning Commission denied it. In September, ABC Development asked for another variance relative to the street length. They presented a plan with a dead-end street that was 1,266 feet long. Fire department objected and suggested that the maximum length be 660 feet. ABC then asked for 750 feet, which Planning Commission approved. At that meeting, there is a notation that Mayor Whitfield stated that ODOT had already conditionally approved a right turn in and a right turn out onto State Route 57. However, the developer at the Joint Committee of Finance and Community Development on February 13th, 2023, clarified that ODOT will approve such conditions only when traffic has grown exponentially to warrant. Thus, we deal with the increased traffic and congestion until it is so bad that ODOT says yes. I'm guessing that such a process takes months to study, design, and implement. ABC asked for another variance in October, and they got waived the street lighting and the sidewalks. For the Reeser Parkway, probably the same thing was waived. No street lights, no sidewalks. So tonight, before you, I believe it's number 8, is a proposal to move forward on a massive development that has contingencies on land acquisition, variances from ODOT, multiple variances from our codes, and requires massive infrastructure improvements. So please, consider these missing pieces. That there is not sufficient timing on the lights, the study is old. It did not take into consideration the car wash, the
Mrs. Zaworka,
yes.
your 3 minutes are up.
May I have additional time? I will wrap it up.
Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion, 1 additional minute.
Thank you.
It's been moved in second. Please go ahead.
The project is relying on cut-throughs on parcels that are not annexed. They are in Eaton Township. None of them are in the city of Elyria. The project is just the beginning of a massive commercial and residential development that will put a strain on our police and fire departments as well as other city services. The project ignores a brand new street with a signalized control that sits empty. And if the proposed Sheetz that's going there has a car wash in its model, like most of the new Sheetz do, really, is that an economic driver, another car wash? I'm not in opposition of the development, but let's take a step back and do the right thing from the beginning. We can't undo the traffic mess that's over there. That happened 20 years ago. But moving forward without a solid plan to address this issue will just be history repeating itself. This area, as a council person and the mayor mentioned at the committee meeting last week, is a mirror image of the traffic nightmare at 83 and 254 in Avon, where overdevelopment, side drives, curb cuts, and turning lanes are always congested. One day, the only option will be for them to disinter the bodies in that old cemetery to alleviate the congestion. I really ask you to pause on number 8. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Zaworka.
And just a clarification, it's item number 10 on the agenda tonight that she was referring to.
It's number 10, Mrs. Zaworka.
Thank you for the correction, number 10.
Thank you.
Gary Gibbs, 1610 Park Avenue, Chestnut Ridge Road.
Mr. Gibbs, please give your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. Gary Gibbs, 1610 Park Avenue, Elyria, 44035. Madam President Pro Tem, thanks for the opportunity to come up here this evening. And I just wanted to start out, I think everybody knows I'm very passionate about the Third Ward. I was raised in the Third Ward, went to school in the Third Ward. After college, came back, Third Ward, got married, built a house there, or bought a house there, and currently live there, and I plan on retiring in the Third Ward unless you folks district me out of the Third Ward. So in regards to that, but anyway, I'm not here to tell you to vote no on future development, but I know it's never going to be like it was. Of course, I have a unique perspective also. Being up here, I represented that ward for 20 years. Of course, I saw it when it used to be farm fields, and of course, when I was a kid, it's never going to be back to the bike trails, the tree houses, things like that. And we all understand that there's going to be development. There's no way of getting around that in regards to that. But I drove by there today, and I thought I would just take a look to see if, well, gee, maybe some more signalization that was brought out, or some signage or some things like that. But I'm going to tell you, when all said and done, and I know that we've tried for many years, and sooner or later, they've got to come here to the podium, and that is the involvement of the Ohio Department of Transportation, I feel is the only realistic option for improvement. ODOT has done nothing to improve traffic at the intersection for years. I encourage Elyria City Council to get ODOT involved in finding solutions. The only person I think who came to this card game with money right now is ABC Development, and it's surely not enough to do what's needed here. Residents in the area need help to address road infrastructure challenges in Chestnut Ridge area, which would require, of course, multi-jurisdictional conversation with the township, as well as, once again, with ODOT. Traffic was a problem yesterday, traffic is a problem today, and there are no near-term solutions in the economic agreement between the City of Elyria and ABC Development on Chestnut Ridge and Route 57 right now. I know this is only phase one. I understand it. I sat where you folks do, and I know this is only phase one. There'll be more phases and more discussion, but I'm hopeful those discussions will include ODOT at this podium. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbs.
That's all the petitions from the lobby?
Petitions and remonstrances from council members. Mr. Corbett.
Thank you, Madam President Chair. When the Chronicle published the ward streets to be repaired, we all had all the 7 councilmen, all the 7 wards had a list. The Chronicle then published an article about the Chestnut Ridge Development Plan that came from the committee. Since those 2 articles have come out, which has been less than a month, I have received 51 telephone calls about the Chestnut Ridge development. 3 callers asked not to repair Chestnut Ridge. They said if you repair it, it'll bring more traffic, and we do not need more traffic. I am not opposed to the development. The gas station and grocery store would be welcome. I am opposed to the no traffic solution and the inclusion of ODOT. I have talked with ODOT, I have talked with Eaton Township, I've talked with county commissioners. We need to get everybody to the table. We need a traffic solution. Residents, when they called me, they mentioned a right-in, right-out of Walmart. Should have been done. That's where most of the traffic is going. When you exit off of 57, most of the traffic is going back to Walmart. I asked the residents to come tonight to bring some solutions. There was a mention about a couple of people do not care for the Michigan left turn. I traveled Michigan for 30 years. I love the Michigan left turns. You never have to wait. You just go through the intersection you want to go left on, make the U-turn, and make the right turn. I think that is a possibility. The area can use a Sheetz and Aldi, but not without a comprehensive traffic study and traffic solution. Phase 2 lacks so many details. The number of additional homes, the number of retail stores. All of this development and traffic is in my ward, and I am the 3rd Ward councilman. I understand the growth and business development of the city of Elyria, particularly in the 3rd Ward. My constituents are concerned about the intensity of traffic. My constituents have overwhelmingly asked that I vote no. Why were these traffic problems not foreseen years ago? I think they were, might have been pushed back. For the will of my constituents of the 3rd Ward that I was elected to represent, I am going to be voting no. No on the suspension, no on the passage, until we get a traffic solution. We need a defined traffic solution. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Corbin. Mr. Clerk, may we continue?
Yes. Next is the reports of standing special committees. There are none.
Resolutions first reading.
Sponsored by Finance, a resolution approving a list submitted by the Safety Service Director for the collection of delinquent, inactive utility accounts and directing the Clerk of Council to certify said accounts to the Lorraine County Auditor.
Mr. Tolet.
Madam Chair, I ask this resolution be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
It's moved in second. Are there any questions?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On the passage, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Resolution 2023-4. Sponsored by Utilities and Finance, a resolution finding that the city has unfit for public use certain city property and declaring an emergency.
Mrs. Davis.
I ask that this resolution be passed on its first reading and declaring this emergency under suspension of rules.
Can I get a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those, I'm sorry, are there any questions?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On the passage, on the emergency, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On the passage, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Madam Clerk, who seconded that, the motion?
Mr. Schneider.
I'm sorry. Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Resolution 2023-5. That's all resolutions first reading.
Resolution second reading.
There are none.
Resolution third reading.
There are none.
Ordinances first reading.
Sponsored by Utilities and Finance. An ordinance authorizing the Director of Safety Service to dispose of by best means possible city property that is unfit for municipal use and declare an emergency.
Mrs. Davis.
Through you, Madam Chair, I ask that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under the suspension of rules and declare an emergency.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Are there any questions?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On the emergency, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On the passage, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Ordinance 2023-20. Sponsored by Utilities and Finance. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement to purchase a new 2023 Case 580 SN Backhoe for the Water Distribution Department through the State Purchasing Program or equivalent program and declare an emergency.
Mrs. Davis?
Madam Chair, I ask that this ordinance be passed on its first reading, under suspension of rules and declare an emergency.
It's been moved and second. Are there any questions?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On the emergency, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On the passage, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Ordinance 2023-21. Sponsored by Utilities and Finance. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement to purchase a new 2023 Cobell Company mini excavator for the Water Distribution Department through the State Purchasing Program or equivalent program and declare an emergency.
Mrs. Davis?
Madam Chair, I ask that this ordinance be passed on its first reading of suspension of the rules and declare an emergency.
It's been moved and second. Are there any questions?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On the emergency, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On the passage, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Ordinance 2023-22. Sponsored by Utilities and Finance. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids and enter into a contract for the sludge disposal at the wastewater pollution control plant.
Mrs. Davis?
Madam Chair, I ask that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspensions of rules.
It's been moved and properly second. Are there any questions?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On the passage, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Ordinance 2023-23. Sponsored by Utilities and Finance. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to submit an application to the Ohio Department of Transportation and accept if offered the Safe Routes to School Program grant and declare an emergency.
Mrs. Davis?
Through you, Madam Chair, I ask that this ordinance be passed on its first reading of suspension of rules and declare an emergency.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Are there any questions?
Question.
All those, on the suspension, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
On the emergency, all those opposed say nay. On the emergency, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On the passage, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Ordinance 2023-24. Sponsored by Utilities and Finance. An ordinance ratifying the application of the mayor and accept if offered the H2 Ohio Grant Program and declare an emergency.
Mrs. Davis?
Through you, Madam Chair, I ask that this ordinance be passed on its first reading with suspension of rules and declare an emergency.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Are there any questions?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On the emergency, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On the passage, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Ordinance 2023-25. 25.
Thank you.
Sponsored by Community Development Finance. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a lease agreement with the Rafa Academy to lease premises located at 700 Gulf Road, Elyria, Ohio, for the Elyria Safety Town Program.
Mrs. Davis?
Through you, Madam Chair, I ask that this ordinance be passed on the suspension of rules.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second. Are there any questions?
Question.
All those in favor on the suspension say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On the passage, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Ordinance 2023-26. Sponsored by Community Development Finance. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an economic development agreement with the Eaton Point LLC or its designee
Mr. Callahan?
Madam President, for the purpose of getting this on the floor, I move that this ordinance be passed under suspension of rules.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Are there any questions?
Question.
Oh, Mr. Tolet?
I dug into this issue, and I want to make two quick comments. About a year ago, the city invested in a traffic management system. It is not yet functioning in this area. That's number one. Number two, in speaking with engineering, Reeser Parkway was made to accommodate roughly 9,000 to 10,000 cars a day. It's doing about 2,000 cars a day if it could. It's doing 2,000 cars a day. The problem right now is, and in listening to the audience, and specifically to what Mrs. Sawerka said, we're not directing the current flow of traffic accurately. So it will be my personal is to pause on this and let engineering finish their work on the traffic management system and to adhere to the residents' wishes. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr.
Was it
Clerk?
the wishes to do a first reading or send it back to committee?
Law Director Deary?
Through you, Madam President, Mr. Clerk, I think we need to hear from the rest of the
Okay, well, I just wasn't sure what the.
I didn't hear you, please.
I'm sorry, I said, just through you, Madam President, I think that the rest of the members of council need to have their say, and then if the motion is that it goes back to committee, that would be one option, yes?
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anyone else? I will make a recommendation based on what we've heard here this evening, that we send it back to committee, that we take a pause. There is, I think there is a need for a traffic study. Like, as Mr. Tolet said, if there is this traffic management system, we need to get it up and working. I personally don't go to Chestnut Commons because the traffic is horrendous. And I've said that. And the thought of a right out onto Route 57 scares the heck out of me because somebody's going to get hurt, and we all know that. So,
I'll second that motion.
So, Mrs. Davis, you had your hand up, please.
Through you, Madam Chair, I was just going to, just comment on that also. Take it back to committee, please. Yes.
So there's a motion on the floor by Mrs. Davis. Mr. Lippian, did you want to say something? You're looking at me. Okay. There's a motion on the floor by Mrs. Davis to send it back to committee. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a lot of seconds. So it's been moved and properly second that we send this item back to committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We're going to send it back to committee. And we sincerely do. We thank you all for your input, because we value what you say. We work for you. So, we value what you say. So thank you. So, Mr. Clerk, may we move on, please?
Absolutely. Sponsored by Finance, an ordinance authorizing the Finance Director to pay a moral claim to Robert Martin.
Mr. Tolet, please.
Madam Chair, I ask this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules. Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Are there any questions?
Question.
All those in favor of the suspension, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On the passage, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Ordinance 2023-27.
Mike, Mr. Clerk, you're messing me up with these numbers.
28.
Are we correct? Because I'm showing it should be 28.
Through you, Madam President, that's because,
We sent the one back to committee.
yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that. I apologize, Mr. Clerk.
I'm correct.
You always are. Thank you.
Sponsored by Finance, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2022-154 to change funds listed in Section 2 for the agreement with rural Lorraine County Water Authority and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Tolet.
Madam Chair, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency. Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Are there any questions?
Question.
All those in favor on the suspension, say aye.
Aye.
On the emergency, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On the passage, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Ordinance 2023-28. Sponsored by Finance, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2023-2 to increase the maximum state infrastructure bank loan amount for the Cleveland Street project and declare an emergency.
Mr. Tolet.
Madam Chair, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency. Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Are there any questions?
Question.
On the suspension, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On the emergency, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On the passage, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Ordinance 2023-29. Sponsored by Finance, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2023-3 to increase the state infrastructure bank loan amount for the East Broad Street project and declare an emergency.
Mr. Tolet.
Madam Chair, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Are there any questions?
Question.
On the suspension, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? On the emergency, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On the passage, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Ordinance 2023-30. Sponsored by Utilities, an ordinance permitting certain structures to remain in the existing right-of-way during the Cleveland Street restructuring project and declare an emergency.
Mrs. Davis.
Through you, Madam Chair, I ask that this ordinance be passed on its first reading of suspension of rules and declare an emergency. Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Are there any questions?
Question.
On the suspension, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On the emergency, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On the passage, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Ordinance 2023-31. That's all ordinances first reading.
Ordinances second reading.
There are none.
Ordinances third reading.
There are none.
Committee calls.
Community Development requests the Law Director, Safety Service Director, Building Inspector, and Engineer on Monday, 2/27, 6 p.m. All items referred. Joint CD Finance requests the Mayor, Law Director, Finance Director, Safety Service Director, and Engineer on Monday, 2/27, immediately following the Community Development meeting. All items referred. Finance requests the Mayor, Law Director, Finance Director, and Safety Service Director, and Engineer on Monday, 2/27, immediately following the joint meeting. All items referred. Utility, Safety, and Finance request the Law Director, Safety Service Director, and Engineer on Wednesday, 3/8, beginning at 6 p.m. All items referred. And Strategic Planning requests the Mayor, Safety Service Director, Finance Director, and Law Director on Monday, 3/6, beginning at 7 p.m. All items referred.
Thank you. Miscellaneous and unfinished business.
Right here. Oh, go ahead first.
Mr. Lothian.
Through you, Madam President, I was actually gesturing to Councilman Oswald.
Oh, thank you, sir. I don't have a me like Mr. Stewart has a me develop. Mr. Oswald.
Through you, Madam President. I just wanted to let everybody know that, we're gonna have a public meeting here, March 7th, which is a Tuesday, from 6:30 to 8 o'clock to discuss our, deer problem that we've got going on in Elyria. It's been a while until I could hook up everybody. We're going to have Jeff Westerfield from ODNR come and speak, answer questions. So I have an address that I'll give you. We're going to post it, put it in the Chronicle Telegram. Since then, I've been letting a few people know, and somebody handed me the Plain Dealer, and on January 29th, there was like a 3-page thing about the deer issues going on in other counties, other areas. They started off at maybe 3 areas that were bad. Well, they've got 11 areas now that they're gonna start culling deer and do things like that. So it's become a real problem. I'm gonna give you these addresses, but I'm sure you can get a hold of me, but I am K. Oswald at cityofelyria.org, or you can catch Colleen at CROSADO at cityofelyria.org. And if possible, if you have questions, if you could email them. We could get the information. If we can get the information ahead of time, we can gather it. We could probably give these questions to Jeff. He could have an idea what he's running into, and we can make it a timely fashion as far as what we want to do and keep this thing forward, because it is an issue and it's starting to get more and more serious. So thank you for your...
Can you give the date and time again, please?
The date is Tuesday, March 7, and it's between 6:30 and 8 o'clock here in council chambers.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Can I get a second, please?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Good night, everyone. Thank you all for coming.
That was a heck of a meeting. Oh, yeah. Everybody. Oh.